I'm not telling you my pre-DNRS journey. If you've seen my forum post, you have a glimpse, a slight idea of that. And quite honestly, once you get to this point, guys, I don't need to share with you necessarily my pre-DNRS journey because you get it. You lived it. You lived it. But I'm not living it now. And you won't be either. But I am going to give you just a little bit of background information about me. Then I'll tell you my story. And then I'm going to answer a lot of questions. I'm going to give you some personal tips and tricks. I'm going to talk specifically about being a mom and going through DNRS. I'm going to talk about going through a very difficult life situation and doing DNRS. I'm going to give some other just general tips and answer questions that were submitted to me, and then I will gladly answer any questions that are on the end. I feel like I want to say up front, though, that I get long-winded. I get really excited to share my story. Please feel at any point that you can leave if you need to leave, okay? This will be recorded and you'll be able to share it, or you'll be able to watch it again later. It's a very privilege. So let's get into this, okay? So if you don't know me, a little background about myself is that I have been married to my husband, Scott. In March will be 25 years. It's so exciting. I got married really young, and my husband has been on this journey with me, and he's been a major supporter, and I am just grateful for him. He and I have 5 incredible kids. My children range from, my oldest is 17. She turns 18 in January. I have a daughter who turns 16 this week. I have a 13-year-old son, and then I have 2 younger daughters who are 9 and 7 years old. And they are my pride and my joy. And DNRS and kids has not always been easy, but it's been worth it, let me just tell you. I also have a background as a physical therapist, and a very odd thing, but I'm kind of a wound care specialist as well. And on top of all of that, I am a homeschool mom. So through all of this journey, I've been balancing several different things. I don't particularly suggest you balance a bunch of different things, but I have been. And so I give you that information so that as I share my story, you kind of have a little bit more context to some of these things as well, okay? First, I'm going to tell you why I chose to do DNRS. I told you that I have a background as a physical therapist. I have a huge appreciation for neuroplasticity. Some of my favorite people to work with in the world is in the hospital when someone has just had a stroke. I love being one of the first people to get in there, get in their face and say, you can do this. We're going to make that arm work again. I talk to them about neuroplasticity. I do activities with them to increase the arm and the leg and things like that working back. So when I heard the concept of neuroplasticity, it made sense to me, but I had never in my life thought about it in the realm of the world of my health challenges and what I was dealing with. And so a friend of mine who had a similar journey as me had told me about it. And I was kind of skeptical, but I grabbed Annie's book and I thought, well, I'll read the book. And I read maybe a chapter and a half and light bulbs went off like crazy. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And then I listened to the video of Annie talking to the Academy of Environmental Medicine doctors. And I was just like, oh, yes, that's got to be right. And I just got it. It's just light bulbs, aha moments, right? So in the summer of July 2016, July 2018, I purchased the DVDs and thought, okay, at that point in time, our life was not settled. And I knew that it was suggested that you do DNRS in a less stressful time in your life. So I thought, okay, once some things settle, I'll take a break and I'll learn the program. For now, I'll just keep moving with life. So that was July. And then in October of 2018, so a couple of months later, our family moved from the South. I'm from Texas, in case you can tell my accent. And we moved to northern Colorado. And I love it here. It's amazing. So I thought, okay, it's October. We were moving, lots of life changes going on, and that lots of beautiful things happening. And so I thought, okay, well, Christmas, I homeschool my kids, so I'm not going to take time because we just moved. But when Christmas comes, the week between Christmas and New Year's, I was going to take those DVDs and learn the program and get going. So it was great in thought and great in theory. And then life happened. Guys, I just have to tell you some honest stuff that happened. Not meaning to trigger anyone by any means, but I want to inspire you that no matter what happens in your life, you can do this, okay? On December 23rd, my husband was involved in a pretty significant accident and shattered his leg and was unable to work. And I did not know when he'd go back to work. And we were still, as many of you might imagine, recovering from life. And so now we had this other kind of big event on top of us. And I knew that I might need to work and I might need to go back to work, but my its were totally preventing me from even considering that at the time. And so a month later, on January 27th, it was a Sunday morning. Let's just say its were overwhelming. And I made myself jump out of bed, grab a DVD, put it in my DVD player, and I started listening to Annie talk, and I started learning the program, and I started changing my life that day. I watched the videos, and by the end of that first day, I had hope like I'd never had hope before. I knew that this was going to change everything. I knew it wasn't going to be an overnight fix, but I believed from the first day that this can work. And my belief, I think, carried me a long ways. By the end of the night, my family was like, Mom, what's going on? Like, you have energy and you're happy. And the next couple of days, I just continued to work the program in my schedule as best as I could, learn as much as I could. And I took to heart almost everything Annie said to do. Annie said, record your progress, celebrate everything. Well, I did. As a matter of fact, to give you an idea of that, the reason why I'm sitting in my closet is a couple of reasons. I know this might not be the greatest background for you guys to be seeing right now, but this is my recovery room. This is where I did 90% of the work that it took to recover. This is my closet. I told people recently, some people pay to go to an escape room. I don't. I just created one. This is my escape place. I set up a place where my family and my children knew, leave Mom alone, let her do her work. It'll be worth it in the end. And on this wall, I'm going to see if I can show you guys from day one, anything and everything I could celebrate, I could write down like, hey, I committed to practice today. I could tell you, I think 1,000 things. Like my kids praised me one day, all these different things. And I started putting it on this wall. So this was my like recovery wall. Y'all can see some of it up there. And I started taking pictures of special moments and milestones and everything. I just had to take in everything good that I possibly can because life was really difficult for me at that moment in time. So if the more good I could see, the better I could get, the more I could just hold on to and be like, oh, I did this today. It just felt like the better I got, the better I got, and the better I got. And hope began to just filter in every aspect of me every single day. And so about a week later, I've learned the program. And let's just say I'm one of those really lucky ones, I guess, but I had some pretty significant shifts in the first week even. And I just took to heart. If Annie said, elevate your mood, I thought, I got to elevate my mood. If Annie said, instead of taking a nap, exercise, I started doing that. All those things I started implementing, and it was just success after success, it felt like. And they were little bitty things, but they were huge to me and huge to my family. And so a week into this, my husband is home. He's unable to work. And so I homeschool my kids. So all 7 of us are home during this time period, which was a beautiful thing. It was a gift to have this time with my husband and our family together. And my husband comes up to me I'll never forget, this is my bathroom behind me. I'm standing in my bathroom and he walks up to me almost teary-eyed. And he says, "You are not the same person. You've really changed." He said, "The kids and I have got to learn this program." I was flabbergasted, like I wasn't pushing it. I was not going to require that of them in any way, but nothing could make life better than all of us getting better. And so I said, great. So the next week I cleared off my kids' schedules. And for a week, my husband and our 3 oldest kids, our 2 youngest were really too young to sit and watch the videos and grasp this. But my children were like, okay, so that was a year and a half ago. So my children were like 11, 14, 17, 16, something like that. Well, they could get it. They could get enough to implement enough of it. And so I have a picture on my wall here. Let's see if I can take this down. I love pictures. But this is my husband. Let's see if I can put it on the screen. And my children sitting in the living room watching the videos and learning DNRS. This makes me so happy. And so then our house began to be transformed from a house that many of you can imagine what it was like, just having a lot of limbic people in it, who began to think, oh, we should laugh. Oh, we should change the subject. Oh, we should communicate in a better way. And things just started changing. I'm not standing here telling you it got perfect. No, don't take that from me. I'm not saying that at all. It got better, and it made it easier for me to do what I needed to do so that I could be the mom and I could be the wife that I wanted to be. And one day I could return to the career or a new career that I wanted to return to or start, whatever it was. And I could continue those passions in my life. So about that time as well, my like I said, I am a physical therapist, and so my husband needed a lot of therapy. So a sweet, sweet lady that I call my mom number 3. I've got my mom, my husband's mom, and she's mom number 3 in my life. She paid for my family to have a membership to a local recreation center that has an indoor pool and all kinds of stuff. And that gave me the privilege of getting in the water with my husband and doing physical therapy with him to get him recovered so he could get back to working in life, because my husband was very driven to do that. And so I found myself in the afternoons, instead of being tired, I was in the water, which I was enjoying the water. So I started swimming. Thought, well, I can swim some laps. And then I started exercising on a bicycle. I started just pushing myself a little bit more. And I found that it was really dosing to me. And I was asking questions, and I'm going to just insert this here because it's appropriate. If I had to address some core beliefs of mine, well, like many of you, exercise was not a part of my life prior to DNRS. And it was something that I was told I can't do. And my body confirmed that in 1,000 ways. So all of a sudden I had to challenge that. I had to challenge that core belief that I can exercise. I can. It didn't have to be anything big. And so the first day that I started feeling like I'm dragging, I thought, okay, it's cold outside. I live in Colorado. It was February at this point. And there were stairs in my house. I thought, well, I can walk the stairs. That's what I can do. Maybe I'll last a minute. I think I walked up and down for 1, maybe 2 minutes, but all of a sudden instead of doing this, I was like, okay, what can I do now? What do I need to do in my afternoon? And it just started, those endorphins started flooding my brain in a positive way, that it was making my body more capable of doing even more. And so from there, it progressed to doing more things in the water, doing more things at the recreation center. And then one of my greatest joys, one of the biggest days that I had, which was still early in that first month of me doing DNRS, I realized that my recreation center had open gym for volleyball. Adults can come in and play, teenagers can come in and play. And I played 1 year in college, and let's just say limbic things back then prevented me from going on. And I love volleyball, but I had not played in 24 years. And I thought, I am going to be courageous, which that's part of my my proclamation, that I'm capable, calm, confident, and courageous in anything. And that I'm going to be courageous, and I'm just going to go see if I can do this. And so my teenage daughters and I showed up I was a little like, oh, I don't know if I can pass the ball. I don't know if I can do anything. I got on the court and I started playing, not at the skill level 24 years ago, but I started playing with skill. I knew what I was doing. And at one point I dove for a ball, rolled over on my back, stood up on my feet, and I wanted to cry. I was like, what, DNRS works? Like, that was in my brain. I didn't process that. I didn't think that. That is something I trained it to do 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, and it just did it. And that was a huge aha moment for me. Like, I am capable of so much more than I even thought or dreamed that I could do. I can do this. So that was huge for me. And then at the same time, as I'm processing, and I'm still kind of talking in the first early days of me doing DNRS, I know many of you are past that, but I also had to question my own beliefs about what I thought about how I got into the limbic state anyways. You know, I am a researcher. I love medical research. I dove into it like many of you did too. And I was desperate for answers, and I was pulling in all this information. Then all of a sudden that information hit with DNRS. I'm like, for me, it challenged the core beliefs of what I thought. And I thought, okay, I can hold on to those core beliefs, all that medical research. It could be all still legit in my life. Or I could choose to let it go, run with DNRS, and see what happens. And for me, that's the choice I decided. I just let go of everything. I unsubscribed from 1,000 people, doctors and people that I truly respect still to this day, and thought, I'll go back to them if I want to. I just eliminated almost everything I can. I pulled out of Facebook, which was my only connection to my family and friends back home, for the most part, kind of thing. And I just kind of decided I'm going to let go, and I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to give it 6 months. That was in my mind, 6 months. And if in 6 months from now, I'm still dealing with XYZ, I'll go find a doctor in this area, and we'll keep working towards whatever we need to work towards. But I thought if in 6 months I don't need to, then fantastic. What do I have to lose? So for me, that was important that I just set everything to the side and trusted the process. And also, just another thing for me, I just also, now that you know kind of what the circumstances of my life were, I had no choice. The way I viewed it, I had no choice. I had to run with this, and I had to give it my all because my husband and my children really, really needed me. And you could say that put a lot of extra pressure on me, but for me, it wasn't really pressure. It was just a driving grit in my gut. I got to do this. I've got to do this. I want to do this. And I want me back, and I want my life back. So I continue to do this. So, but during this time, it was very challenging in a lot of ways. If you can imagine, my husband, the very first 4 months of my DNRS journey, we had absolutely no income whatsoever. And so we were really reliant on the gifts. And I never would want to offend anyone, but I have a strong faith as a Christian. And so I was very dependent upon my faith as well, doing what I needed to do and trusting that the Lord had the circumstances under control. And so I had to deal with a lot of pops around all of that. I didn't want to be in a situation of need, but I was. So I had to choose to look at everything as something I was so incredibly grateful for. When I had to go to a food bank, y'all, I popped like crazy, would have symptoms walking into a food bank. But when a lady touched my hand and said, "I'm so glad you're here," I bawled and cried and just thought, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the food I have to feed my family. I'm so grateful that these circumstances will change, and constantly reminding myself, this too shall pass. This is not going to be our life forever. Scott's going to get better. He's going to get back to work, or I'm going to get where I'm working. We're going to be okay. This too shall pass. So I constantly had to deal with a lot of pops over that kind of stuff. And I can tell you, I'd be in the bathroom sometimes at places like that when I was there trying to help my family get through our circumstances, and I'd be doing my rounds. I got through it though, and everything worked out amazingly well. But I had to focus on celebrating everything and a lot of gratitude. And I was very committed to practicing daily and PRN as much as, as much as I needed. Anytime something came up, I was going to address it. I wasn't going to ignore it. I took lots and lots of pictures of milestones and shifts. I have a picture of me over here where I'm in a bathroom I'm doing my rounds in a bathroom, and I took a picture of that. I thought, I'm going to be proud of this moment. I could have just continued to have the it while I was walking up and down the aisles of the store, but I chose not to. I chose to go in that bathroom by myself, stare at myself in the mirror, give myself a good round, and then get out there and get the job done and get home to take care of my family. And it turned out great. I also started doing what I call my joy mirror. I'm going to show that to you. So during this time period, every day I would write out a pop opposite that I was dealing with. And as you can imagine, sorry, it's going to be kind of funky for a minute. But as a mom, I dealt with things like rushing pops and just being overwhelmed. Let me see if y'all can see this. But this is my mirror in my bathroom. And it says, hold on, let me find it. There we go. Joy. And I took index cards and I wrote pop opposites. I wrote scriptures on there, anything that needed to be my daily reminder that every morning that I got up and I saw it, that's what would be some of the first things on my mind. I put pictures up of great, wonderful times. These are pictures of my husband and I that bring a lot of joy, pictures of my husband and my kids. And then as we reached other milestones and things, I flooded my views with pictures, which I encourage you to do. And started doing that with my kids as well. I felt like if they could have pictures of good memories, then I needed to put pictures of good memories up. They needed to have that on my mind more than anything. So let's see. All right, keep moving on. And so my first month went really, really well. I continued to get better and better and better. And then all of a sudden I got a cold. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. It was like, whoa, what just hit me? Things were going great. And then all of a sudden I got this cold. Well, do not despair. That is actually a very good sign. Absolutely good sign. So, and eventually I got over it, kept moving forward. And then February through March, I kept kind of pressing forward, feeling like I was slowly making progress. And then that spring, I was asked to play on a volleyball team, which just blew my mind away. And I decided for my brain health that I would not speak a word to anyone about my circumstances, about what I was going through, about what I had been through, about my its or anything else under the sun. I needed them to see me as somebody healthy and well. I did not need them to know my backstory. I did not need their sympathy or to look at me like they can't comprehend it, because let's face it, most people can't understand your limbic system issues, that they don't get it. And it's a little too overwhelming for them to try to comprehend it. And so I just lived my life like there was nothing going on. Most of those ladies still don't know. A couple of them now know, now that I've recovered. I've had a couple conversations, but most of them don't. And so life just was keep going. But okay, thing about the truth about a DNRS journey is it sometimes goes like this, where you feel like you're getting better. Then I like to say, then you jump on the roller coaster ride and you feel like you might be spinning backwards and you're not. The life feels like it's spiraling back, and eventually you pull out of it, and then you spiral some more, and eventually you pull out of it. Progress is not linear. Everyone on this call knows that is true. But here's the deal. Eventually you get off that roller coaster and you move into recovery, and it is incredible. So in May, I was so excited. My husband finally went back to work. I had the means to drive to Texas, which is a 2-day drive, with my children and go see my family. And I did it. I did it amazingly well. I listened to rounds, like recorded rounds, like almost the whole drive down there. It was awesome. I filled myself as much as I could with that good DNRS, just like you guys are doing. And then at that same time, I just found out I had been waiting 4 months to get into a laughter yoga group at this point. And I found out somehow, I guess on the forum, which I was rarely on the forum. Y'all can imagine my life was full. So I didn't do forum much. It's wonderful if you can. But about 4 months into it, finally find out that Kim, I'm not sure she's on here or not because I haven't looked to see who else on here, but was opening up a new laughter yoga group. And I got to get in it. I was so excited. So on that trip, that's when I started doing laughter yoga as well. And that was like, whoa, oh, Kim, yay, she's here. I'm so glad. I remember standing in my mom's house in her that tiny little bedroom. And I'm standing there with one of my youngest daughters and we're laughing. And I was thinking, this is like the icing on the cake. This is breaking me out of that into that. This is life, living again, laughing again. And it just was wonderful. And so as soon as I even came back to Colorado after that trip, I started doing as much as I could. As much as she offered, I was on. And at this point, summer hit. So now it's summer 2019. And I decided at this point, I'm going to live my life. I don't care if I have its. I don't care if I have pops because I've got the tools to address them. And I thought, I'm going to do everything I can. So that summer, I've been very blessed with a friend who lives in my neighborhood who has young kids who are kids with my kids. And we just started having a blast. We started going to every little water park that we go to, hiking if we could go hiking. We just started going and going and going as much as we possibly could. Between going and doing fun things, even if it meant it triggered something, I had the tools to address it. So I thought I'll address it and I'll just let it settle back down and then I'll just keep pressing forward. So that and doing laughter yoga every chance that I could, that summer, I just felt like my progress went way up. And I was doing so well and things were going great. And I was just feeling more joy and more happiness. And I just was overwhelmed by this is incredible. Somewhere around that time period, I think in May, about the same time I started laughter yoga, I joined a recorded rounds group as well. And so I started listening to a lot of people that you guys have listened to that are very inspirational. And I started getting more ideas. And then I started sharing my rounds and getting people extremely generous comments back to me was dosing me in an incredible way and was like bringing it all back around in this beautiful circle of helping me, helping them, helping me, helping them. And I really began to realize I enjoyed that. I enjoy helping other people reach their goals as well. And that was a giving, tapping into that giving part of the brain as well. So for me, it was a beautiful thing. So by the end of the summer, I had some more life circumstances happen. I had a ill family member back home and I couldn't be there. And at the same time, I had dear friends moved to Colorado and they literally ran out of money, had nowhere to live. So we moved their family of 8 into my house. I don't particularly suggest that, but for my husband and I, it was the right thing for us to do. So I don't remember, I think it was about 6 weeks, we had 15 people living in my little bitty home. And it was a beautiful thing. And it was definitely a limbic challenging thing. But here's the deal. I could have seen that as just the hardest thing I ever dealt with, or I could have seen that as a beautiful way to retrain my brain. And I did. So for a couple of months, starting in August, I got back on that roller coaster and I felt like I was spiraling again. Like, am I going back? Am I going forward? I don't know what's happening. What's going on here? When I get like that, when I used to get like that, I stop and I go, okay, well, what do I need to change? What needs to go differently? And at this point in time, Kim was also going through some things, and there were a couple other people who could lead laughter yoga in our group, but all of us were kind of going through some stuff, and they weren't as consistent, let's say at that moment in time, of being available to lead. And I thought, well, I want to lead. I need to laugh. So I need to laugh. I'm going to do this. So I contacted Kim and said, I'd like to lead. But I really don't have the time to do like 30 minutes. I'm homeschooling. I've got all this other stuff going on. I got kids involved and, a lot of stuff. I'm running around. I said, what if I did like a 10 to 15 minute laughter break? And she and I talked about that. I think she'd even said the idea herself too. And but yeah, let's do this. So I started offering one or two or three laughter breaks a day, just like 10 minutes. Just, I would say, hey, at this point, we're going to get on and we're just going to do a short little laugh. And that bumped me up. That was part of helping pull me out of that roller coaster and progressing me forward again. And in the process, I learned I am a natural born leader. That is my inner core of me. I want to lead people. I know that I love being on a stage. I like the attention. I'm not going to lie. Y'all aren't surprised at all. Those who know me, I know. I enjoy that, but I enjoy helping you. It helps me as well. And so I began just pouring into that and started getting better and better and better. And so August through October was this kind of one of those roller coaster rides. And then finally, somewhere mid to end of October, I started sliding out of it and feeling like miraculously like, oh my goodness, what just happened? But this is a whole new me that is happening now. And as this happened, I had a coaching call. I'll tell you, I've had 4 coaching calls, and I never actually had a coaching call asking, like, how do I work this program? I blessedly understood it. I got it. I knew how to implement the program. But my brain would get stuck. And I know you guys know what I mean. Like, I needed to make up my mind on this or that, but I just couldn't decide, like, which way do I go with this? What do I do here? It's like I got to a crossroad and I needed to make some decisions. And that's usually when I would get a coaching call. And so this particular coaching call, I had talked to her a lot about what was going on. And then I had to make a decision because I needed to have a very minor, nothing big, but a very minor medical procedure. And she was very much, my coach was Karen, by the way. I love her. I think she's great. Karen helped me to think through that, totally switched my mindset in the process of what I needed to do, helped me appreciate that there are times where things are just absolutely necessary to be done, and appreciating that it was necessary and seeing the beautiful side of that. And as a result, she encouraged me to, when I did my visualizations, visualize me going in, having the procedure, going through the steps of that, imagining exactly what the doctor was going to say to me, how all of that was going to go. And she's like, visualize it to the point where your brain already thinks it's happened. And then when you get in there to do it, it thinks it's already done. Like, you've already done it. It was easy breezy, no big deal. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I did. And it went amazingly well. And I walked out crying, y'all. I was like, what just happened? That just happened the way I visualized it. This is incredible. And then I'm like, I feel like Superwoman. I can do anything now. I got through that. And at the same time, I also had one more thing I needed to make up my mind on. My husband and I sing at church. We lead music together. It's kind of a family thing. And we've been doing it for many years. My limbic system has been very involved in that process. And we were given an opportunity and asked to come and sing at this church. And so I had done it once, and Libby, I didn't like how Libby was during that. Let's put it that way. So I was like, Karen, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I'm not even sure, where do I go with all of this? Do I like not do it, or because it's obviously causing a limbic thing going on, or what? And so she encouraged me to visualize. And because it is something that ultimately brings me so much joy to do, she really encouraged me to visualize, be as prepared as possible so that Libby didn't feel caught off guard. Imagine myself doing it so peacefully and beautifully, and to go in and to go for it. And I did. And it was incredible. And I will tell you that it's got better and better and better. My husband and I were singing together last night, y'all, and like, I cannot explain it because until recovery, I never experienced it. But this peace, this calm, this body that is just like relaxed, y'all, that is recovery, and that is incredible. And this confidence that now has come into play is just beyond anything I dreamed or imagined. And so in November, I kind of had those tough decisions to make. And then things just shifted. I made those decisions, and it's like, I think emotionally there was a big shift at this point. And at this point also, my mom came to visit me for my birthday, and we went up into the mountains. I live very close to the mountains, and we went out to eat. And at this point, I had two things I was still incrementally training on, which I will talk more about all of that later. But I thought, it's time. It's time I go to that last big thing. And I started working on it that day with my mom there, taking like just a small bite of something we were eating and working through the process. And I continued over the next couple of months. Then by Thanksgiving, I started having days where I just didn't even feel like I had to do rounds. And that was incredible, feeling like I didn't feel like today, what got me through today was my rounds. I did my rounds, but I didn't feel like I even had to do my rounds. That I felt that I was already this extremely calm, joyful person, enjoying and living my life, letting nothing stop me from what I wanted to do. And that was a beautiful place to be. And so let me think if I missed anything. So, oh, and I was just going to, a side note, during this whole process as well, one of the ways that I could help my family is we live really close to a plasma donation center. And so I started donating plasma like twice a week. And they have to go through the screening process where they check certain vitals and check some things in my blood and before they'll let me donate. And in November, I started really noticing that my vitals changed and my blood work. So my blood work changed. Things that were never like incredibly way out of whack, but they normalized. And I was like, whoa, that is an awesome sign of this peace and calm that is now taking place inside of me. So those things started to get really, really good. And then December and January, I kept doing my rounds, just kept feeling amazing. We had the best Christmas as a family. We didn't have family with us. We moved away from our family, and no one's going to come visit us, sadly, at Christmas. So we just make the best of it and have a great time with just us. And it was wonderful. So at this point, I'm just going to tell you, by January, it's been 1 year at this point. I'm leading laughter yoga. I'm playing volleyball 2 to 3 times a week competitively. I'm walking my dog daily, which my dog was an extreme limbic challenge for a long time. And then I had to do some rounds and really change my mindset and make a new association with my dog. And I fell in love with my dog as a process. And I appreciate the fact that she got me outdoors every single day to start my day in the beautiful Colorado weather. I'm doing at least one thing every day that brings me joy. I am homeschooling. At this point, I'm actually homeschooling 4 of my 5 kids. We actually switched one to public school, and that was a big shift and a big change that happened as well. And so I had to work through some limbic things through that as well. And then we got to the other side, and it was a beautiful thing, and it was all worth the work completely. But I was having to teach one of my kids, the one who went to public school, teach him at night to get him caught up on some things that I needed to get caught up on. I'm singing with my husband again. I'm donating plasma. As you may imagine, I'm driving one of my kids to volleyball, and we've got some church activities and this and that. So I'm busy, but I'm calm. And I'd never really been busy and calm before. I was controlling my schedule. I was choosing to make sure that only things in my life were things that brought me joy, things that I really wanted to do or my kids really wanted to do. And I said no to everything else. I said no to several things. But it was a beautiful place. So in February, actually, I think my third coaching call was January, was it? I can't remember now exactly. I have to go back and look. But at some point, my third coaching call, you know, in the beginning, you do an intake and you give all this information. And my coach is reading back to me some of the things I said on there. And she said, Crystal, you're either recovered or really close to recovery. And I thought, really? And I started thinking about that. So when I had my next coaching call, actually, that was my second one. She said that. I'm sorry. My third one, when I listed all these things, and one of the things I listed in the huge shifts in progress, I said, I am living my life the way that I want to live my life. I'm living a full life. I said, my quality of life has drastically changed. She said, Crystal, that sounds a lot like recovery. And I started thinking about that. That was January, February, somewhere in there. And then I believe it was early March. My sweet friend, Nikki, who I believe is on here as well, Nikki gone to the in-person seminar, and Nikki was really close to recovery herself, and she went to the in-person seminar. And I said, okay, I want to talk to you on the phone. I want to hear more about it. So we're on the phone and she's telling me about it, and I'm tears are starting to come to my eyes because she starts talking about Connie making a comment. Somebody asked Connie, well, what does recovery really look like? We all want to know, what does recovery really look like? And I'm going to be paraphrasing because I wasn't there, but this is basically what Connie said. She said, it's different for different people. Some people gain their life back and they are so happy and full of joy and calm that they could care less if they still have some its going on. It's not stopping them. They're moving forward their life, and that's recovery for them. She said, some people press forward and they want to keep going until there's no more its, no more pops, nothing in their life that they're dealing with. That's recovery for them. So I hung up the phone with her and I'm processing this. And I'm thinking about what Karen has said to me. And I'm thinking about these comments, and I'm thinking about how much my life has changed. And by that night, I do a round, and in my round, I have it recorded. I realize I'm recovered. I'm recovered. There's nothing stopping me. I am living the life I want to live. I'm doing what I want to do. I am parenting as I want to parent. I am being the wife that I want to be towards my husband. I am playing volleyball. I am singing. I am doing all these things that bring me joy. Nothing is stopping me ever, ever. And I refuse to let it stop me. And I just cried and I'm weeping and I'm realizing what happened, and life is full and busy. And I'm like, this is just incredible. But in my mind, I still kind of had two things that I was still somewhat working on. One was food and one was an environmental thing. And I had to make up my mind, am I content with where I'm at? Or do I want to press forward and really keep working towards these things? So about a week or so later, I get an email from a sweet friend of mine who is in this group. I won't say her by name. I'm not going to call her out. And I wake up and I have a coaching call that has been paid for because she knows my circumstances and that we are still recovering. And she paid for me to have one more coaching call. So I scheduled a coaching call and I get on with Karen. And I tell her, Karen, I'm recovered. I realize I've recovered. I really have. I thought about what you said and explained all these other things, told her what was going on. And I don't remember every word she said, but she just affirmed me like crazy, confirmed it in me. And she said, Crystal, I really think you've been recovered a lot longer than you realized. And it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. It's one of those words you want to hear. You just want that affirmation, that confirmation that, yeah, you did it. You really did do it. And so I talked to her about the couple of things I still have left to make up my mind on, and this and that. And, but those things were not stopping me in any way. And I can decide and I'll make up my mind what I wanted to do with all of that. And so, and then we talked about the possibility of me becoming a DNRS coach, which is something that obviously I have to wait a year, and I'm almost to a year, because in my mind, I'll be honest, I really think my recovery process was likely November a year ago. And that November month is when it just shifted majorly. And so I feel like I'm really close to a year now. But But anyway, she was just really encouraging me to really consider becoming a coach and all that kind of stuff too. And yet I love what I do as a physical therapist. So I'm like, well, I can go back to doing that. And I'm like, well, my life is also full. I don't have to do anything. And, really since then, I've just decided I'm good with whatever doors open, I'm going to be content with. I love my life the way it is. I would love to do more, but I'm okay. And it's okay to be okay. And it's okay not to know exactly what that future is going to look like. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the transition time period, because I was asked to speak about this too. So once I realized I was recovered, as you guys all know, our world shifted around us, didn't it? So this was an interesting time to walk from recovery back into life again. So I was able to kind of assess what was going on. I was able, because I was recovered, was able to process a lot more information, kind of take it in, information that I wouldn't have been able to before. I was able to compile that in a positive way. And many of you on here have probably watched my video that I created. I did a Zoom call from our laughter yoga group, encouraging people with statistics and information and a lot of tips to continue on with DNRS through this unknown time period in our history. And that was really well received by very many people. And I felt really blessed for those felt very blessed for those that benefited from that. It was a gift I wanted to give to people, because I didn't want people to let limbies take over during this time period, because limby doesn't need to. And so I began continue to do the things I wanted to do. But as we all know, life changed around us. So I no longer had my own personal boundaries of what I could and could not do, but I had the world's boundaries of what I could and could not do. And so I had to just shift my brain to think, okay, I've got to focus on what I can do. The worst thing you can do, and that's maybe not the right way of putting it, but it's not helpful, let's put it this way, to focus on what you can't do right now. Limby can have a heyday with that. Focus on what you can do. And so I began walking with a friend of mine. So every afternoon we would, let's just say, abide by the rules in place, but we would walk and at least have some interaction with people. I continue to do laughter yoga until just it got where my schedule literally changed like every single day. We all have gone through time period where it's just like something's shifting all the time. And that is very challenging, definitely. And so it became a really interesting transition for me. And I would love to say that if life hadn't changed so much around me, I probably would have had the easiest transition in the world. But I want to be very honest and say this is just a challenging time for every single one of us, no matter where you live on this planet. And we have certain things we have to live by and we have to adjust to. And we all are probably surrounded by people who have different perspectives. And quite frankly, there's a lot of limbic voices being heard in the world around us. So for some of you, it might feel like it's kind of a plateauy time, or like you're just struggling with still adjusting to all the shifts and all the adjustment of the world around us. No, that's okay. That is okay. Because what I can tell you from going through such a difficult season of life and life circumstances while doing DNRS is that those circumstances may make you work the program a little bit harder. They may make you do it a little bit stronger. They may challenge your brain a little bit more. But what happens is when those stressors start to relieve, limby doesn't have to work so hard. And guess what? I mean, you don't have to use a prefrontal cortex so hard to address limby. It's like, oh, it's this beautiful side of, possibly for some people, I like to say, you may feel like you had a spontaneous recovery one day because some of those things are no longer kind of at you, or you've addressed it so well that nothing feels like it's coming at you and being such a big challenge to you. So hang in there. So I began to continue. Not necessarily, I did wean down off of doing rounds. I weaned a little bit, a week or two, and then I just had more and more days I just didn't think I needed them. And I just stayed calm no matter what. And eventually I personally chose to quit doing them and just see what happens. And so in that time period from March till now, what's that, 7 months, I basically do them if I need to. And I do a lot of deep breathing. I do a lot of saying my proclamation. I do a lot of, when I start my rounds, especially in the morning, I would look at myself in the mirror. I say, good morning, gorgeous. What do you choose today? I say, I choose joy. I choose a big smile on my face. I choose calm, calm, calm. I repeat that to myself still a lot because my limbic system has wanted to check in with me. A friend of mine said that comment to me recently, who's recently recovered. And I love that comment because that's real. I do not have a limbic system impairment anymore, but I still have a limbic system. And occasionally Limby comes in and says, hey, are we okay here? Are we okay? Are we okay? Do I need to kick in? And I'm like, no. I like to just talk back to Limby. Like, no, we're okay. I haven't made up my mind yet, Limby, but trust me, I'll figure out what I think about this. And then we'll decide and it'll be okay. Just trust me. You'll be calm. Be calm. I got it. And so I've had some very challenging circumstances come up as a result of things going on in the world, as you all have. And then also the beautiful thing though, is I was able to take all this time that I was pouring into me. I was spending 2 to 4 hours a day between doing my rounds, doing laughter yoga, doing any mini rounds or things that came up, dressing pops. I'd say 2 to 4 hours of my time a day I spent on DNRS for over a year. And all of a sudden, I didn't have to do that. So I began sitting down and watching TV and enjoying my family a little bit more. I began having some more in-depth conversations with my teenage girls who are just going through life and trying to figure out life. And quite honestly, some of my kids still have some limbic type stuff. And so like, instead of focus so much on me, I can give them a little bit more of my attention without it being such a limbic thing for me now, because I'm calm, I'm capable, I'm confident, and I'm courageous in any situation. And so transition for me, all of a sudden the things that I was doing, like playing volleyball and stuff, I couldn't do. So a friend of mine, my friend in my neighborhood that I'd walk with, and I decided we got to make the best of this. And she and I don't even agree on what's going on in the world, but she and I agree that we need to make the best of our circumstances and help our children in such a time as this. So we live in the beautiful state of Colorado, and we just spent the summer going and blowing and having a blast and doing whatever we wanted to do. We went hiking, we went tubing, we went swimming in the river, we went jumping off cliffs. We just did everything we could to have positive, wonderful memories so that my children will think 2020 might have been one of the best years of their life, and me as well. And that really helped a lot. And so let's just say that I continue to use a lot of the DNRS tools, but I do not exactly do all the rounds. I don't do all of that. I think it's wonderful if you do. I think it's great. And I'm sure I would be like in a more beautiful, blissful place even if I did. But I continue to practice the principles. I continue to lift my mood and all those kinds of things as well. And somebody's speaker has been unmuted. If you don't mind muting it, thank you, sweetie, whoever that is. So anyways, let me just go into a few more things real quick and then get into some questions. I think that let's see if there's anything I just totally missed. So just some general tips and tricks. Celebrate everything. I mean, everything. Take selfies of everything you possibly can. Consider recording your rounds. It may or may not be something that you're comfortable with, but I think it's a really good thing if you are. Laugh, 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 and laugh more. One of the most beautiful things is my husband started turning to like a YouTube channel, and we watch these gags. If y'all seen the shows where they pull off all these pranks on people, oh my goodness, my family has sat downstairs together and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed, and it has been amazing. Do something that brings you joy every single day. Focus on what you can do. Post pictures of who you truly are. One of the things in my closet, see if I can show this to you as well, is what I call my I am wall. What I did is I went through some old pictures and I posted older pictures on my wall of special moments where I felt capable, I felt calm, I felt skilled, I felt loved, I felt optimistic, I felt a lot of wonderful, beautiful emotions. And I put these pictures and then I put words on the pictures that describe that, okay? So let's see if I can get this in my view. This is my I am wall. But it says things like, I am loved, I am capable, I am privileged, I am blessed beyond measure, I am many, many, many different things. And there's one picture in particular that I look at. When I look at it, it brings me so much joy, because there was a very special circumstance several years ago when the earthquake hit Haiti. Just things worked out amazingly well. And I was able to go to Haiti 2 weeks afterwards. I ended up totally in charge of the wound care team in this tent hospital. I had this kind of like mountaintop, incredible experience. And there's a picture of me in my scrubs with a thing over my hair, a net over my hair. And I'm kind of like this. And that's the picture when I did my rounds. And if I do rounds today, I talk to me in that picture. When I do my higher self, that's the picture I look at. That's the picture I'd say, Crystal, you're worth it. Your time, your effort is worth it. You're worth it. Your husband's worth it. Your kids are worth it. You're worth doing this. Keep going. And it was just a beautiful thing for me. So let's see if there's something else. Oh, things are falling down in my closet. Respect and give yourself some emotional space for healing. DNRS is a very emotional program, and the emotional healing that goes on with it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. As I continued to heal, I began to emotionally heal about relationships that I felt hurt from, people that I just really felt very challenging to be around. And all of a sudden, my heart and my mind was changed to, I love that person. Like, I want to be around that person. That didn't mean I had to put myself in a position that was possibly harmful, but it changed because I changed, my relationships changed. And I was able to make a trip at the beginning of the summer and go home and spend time around some of those people. And it was a beautiful thing. I came home with incredible memories. And I was just like, this is what I want my life to look like. I did it. I did it. I changed everything, even relationships. But give yourself for that. I had some time I had to grieve. And I remember at first a couple of times I'm like, okay, is this good or bad? And I thought, no, I'm going to let myself cry. I'm going to let myself feel those emotions because those emotions are real. People without a limbic impairment are going to feel those emotions. And I grieved. I grieved over the life I had before. I grieved over our finances. I grieved over many things, but I didn't stay grieved. Then I cried, wiped my tears, did my rounds. I have on another wall over here. This is posted. This is a bunch of things that were very challenging. People were challenging, different things I was working through. And I changed them. I put a lot of Bible verses that helped me combat my feelings and emotions in that time. I spoke truth. I'd write truth on my wall. I'd work through some of those things. And then I started posting things like, we really need this thing financially. Like, we need this. And then every time that was provided for, I'd write down next to it, you know, I'd have, like I have on my wall right now, I'm looking at on October the 3rd, somebody sent me $500 anonymously. Somebody else sent us like $548 like the next month. And then I was a couple of months, I went through, I would say, I went during that spiral in August, October. I couldn't donate plasma. My numbers weren't well at that time. No surprise. My limbic brain wasn't okay during that time. But once I got out of it, I was able to do it again. And then another lady sent us money. Like I was gifted. And every gift was a huge blessing that I could just hold on to and be grateful for. And that was just proof that life was going to be okay. And we were going to move forward and move out of this and all is going to be well. And we did. But give yourself room to grieve. It's okay. You're not going to stay stuck in that state because you stop to grieve. One of my favorite things, if Limpy is talking to you, I had days where it's like, Limpy doesn't shut up, does it? It's like that child. You just want to. So sometimes I would be the calm mom. It's okay, Limpy. It's okay. I got this. You can be quiet now. And then there were days, y'all. I remember a couple of days I said, okay, Limpy, I'm in charge. You shut your mouth. It's time you be quiet and let me take over. And I only had to do that a couple of times, but it worked. It worked for me. And I was able to move forward. So sometimes just don't let Limby be the voice you hear all day long. Speak truth. Speak truth. There's one of the things I'd like to say to Limby. Say, okay, I understand that's a difficult thing for you right now, Limby, but you know what the truth is? And then I'd speak the truth. And eventually it became the truth I lived. And my Limby brain would go, okay, sometimes fall right into it. Remember that your emotions strengthen your connections. On my bathroom, I have a thing that's like three things for neurogenesis that Annie teaches in the program. You know, one is like an hour a day of cardio exercise 5 times a week will help new brain cells to form. That's what neurogenesis is. And I'd have to go look at it. I'm not going to do that. But what talks about emotions. Your emotions strengthen your connections. So I have one of my favorite rounds. In my rounds, I start singing the song. I'm talking and thinking about Annie saying that emotions do that. Do y'all remember the old 80s song, Let's Get Physical? Let's get physical, physical. So I started singing, let's get emotional, emotional. Yeah, let's get emotional, emotional. Yeah, come on, change our brains now. Change our brains now. Come on, change our brains now. Anything that I could do to just throw in an emotion and just do it and grab it, I would. And that's part of why I love laughter yoga. There's no boundaries to my emotions. I can pour myself into it completely and just keep running with that. So remember that. So if you're feeling a little low, do something to pull in that positive emotion. And yes, sometimes it brought on some adrenaline, but I was okay with that because I knew that I could calm it back down, even if it was just deep breathing. And that was a good adrenaline response because it was changing my brain in a positive way. And then building relationships is the last thing I want to talk about in this. I found it very challenging. We had just moved to a whole new state. I didn't know very many people, left all of our support system behind. And then all of a sudden I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I need to know women. I need to build some relationships somewhere. But it was very awkward. Like I'm in the middle of a lot going on. And do I say something? Do I not say something? So that's one of the coaching calls I had. I'm like, how do I go about this building relationships when people look at me like, you've been through what? And, you know, Karen spoke such life to me. I mentioned this slightly earlier, but I began to appreciate that I just needed to keep my mouth shut. I wanted people to know me for the new me. I didn't want them to know the old me. And so there's a lot of people I know today who have no clue. And one of the greatest joys I've had since then, because people don't know, is things like I've had several people come to me and say, you're so calm. How are you so calm? Like I lead bingo. This is part of one of my kids plays in a travel volleyball team. And this is how I am able to pay for it. And so I'm the caller. I call the bingo numbers. And this lady walks up to me and she says, I just appreciate how you're so calm. And I was like, oh, that's DNRS. Thank you. So I better move on. I know we're taking a long time. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of parenting tips. First of all, focus on you. If you are a parent going through this, focus on you. You are going to get to the place where you can really address them. But I like to tell parents that I feel like it's really hard because you're watching what's going on with your kids too, and you want to help and you want to do something. Remember, by you getting better, you are helping them. But also, if there is one thing that you can do to help them, for me, doing things like intentionally making decisions that brought joy into my kids' lives helped me, helped them. Therefore, it calmed my Limby. So that was a big deal to me. At my house, we came up with a catchphrase. There was a specific word, and it was a gentle little nudge, like, you might need to go do a round. And in the word in our house, my kids came up with it, was marmalade. So sometimes we would go, I need to go marmalade. Or my kids would be in the middle of something and say, how about marmalade? And it became a gentle way of us just reminding each other. And then it was a good way for us to communicate with each other without saying, hey, my limbic's going crazy, I need to do something about it. So focus on new experiences and new memories. Do your best. If you're a parent, you're doing your best. Your best is good enough. To me, that's almost number one pop opposite. Every parent, and even if you're not a parent, every one of us need to know it. You're doing your best, and your best is good enough. Enough said. Okay. All right. Take 3 slow breaths if you're a mom or dad. Take 3 slow breaths every day, all day long. Remember, there's more than enough time. More than enough time. Laugh together. Hide out in a closet if you have to. Go hide behind a coat if you need to. I've had people say, I just can't get away from my kids. I'll be honest, this program is worth it. Your work in it is worth it. If you need to put on the TV for an hour so you can do your rounds, it's okay. It's okay. That TV, an hour of your TV with your kids is not going to hurt them in the long run. And if you need to help address that later, guess what? I've scaled back now. I've been able to go back and, okay, kids, I gave y'all some free reign. Now I've recovered. Let's do what's right and best for us. Now we can work through those things. So yes, do whatever you have to do to manage your life and schedule your day and your time. Try engaging your kids in rounds. One of my favorite rounds that I have, and I think I lost the recording, which is so sad. I was at my mom's house visiting, and I'm sleeping in the bedroom with my 2 youngest girls, and I'm going through the round. It was the first time for them to ever get on an airplane and fly, and I'm doing the round, but I'm engaging them, and they're talking about what they saw and their experience, and it was just a beautiful moment of we did this all together. So we may not have perfectly taught all my kids what to do, but I've given them an appreciation of good memories, recalling good things, and elevating their mood. And that has been a major shift in my home. So now, sometimes you may have that kid who wants to talk to you. If you have teenagers, seems like my teenagers want to talk to me when it's like I'm bedtime, or it used to be like when I was in the middle of a limbic response. And I'd take a slow breath and I'd have to say, I love you, and I really care about this, and I really want to talk to you, but this is not the right time. I need to go do a round so that I am calm and capable and able to handle this conversation with you right now. And that shifted so much. By me just saying that, my kids their limbic system started calming better. Like they modeled mine and came down, and it was a beautiful thing. Sometimes I would even say, okay, how about tomorrow at this time, we'll sit down and we'll talk about this. And then it gives me time to even visualize that conversation in a positive way and visualize myself being capable and calm with them. And so engage your spouse, your partner, your friends, someone to help give you the freedom of time to do what you need to do. I was really blessed, and I know and I appreciate that not everybody is. My husband wanted me to do this program. Oh, yes, he did. And when he saw the changes in me, he was going to do anything and everything he could do to support me. So he became very good about protecting me when I went to my closet. When I went to go do that, he protected me a lot. And then as a parent, anyone, honestly, do not confuse self-care with selfishness. Self-care and selfishness are not the same. Taking time to take care of you, especially as a mom or a dad or a grandparent who needs to walk away for a little while and go take care of you, good self-care, you are doing the best thing you possibly can do for that child as well. That is not selfishness. Parents can get really caught up in a pop over being selfish and taking time away. No, take care of you. You're going to take care of them by taking care of you. And then, of course, as a parent, you deal with a lot of distractions. I'd be around, I'd be all into it, and all of a sudden when my kids walks in, Mom, I'd have to stop and dress my kid. They'd leave, and I'd say, okay, Limby. All right, okay, Limby. I know we got distracted. Okay, we were over here. Okay, we were on a beach. We were talking about this, or whatever, and I just redirected my limbic system back to where I was. Let's keep going. And I just became very focused as best as I could on continuing on in the realm with whatever I was talking about or doing. and posting pictures. I can't say it enough. I just think posting happy family pictures. I started taking pictures of all these fun things my kids and I were doing, and then I would give them, I'd make extra copies of them so they'd have one. So their bedroom walls are covered with pictures and mine are covered with pictures, and this happy memories are all around us. And then the last thing, and then I'm going to get to the last of the questions. If you are under a very high stress time period while you're doing DNRS, remember, this too shall pass. This is not what life will always look like. This too will pass. Limit your exposure. Whatever is going on in your life, be very mindful about what you're being exposed to. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it feeding your limby or not? You guys know this, but sometimes you just need to remember, limit your exposure to what's going on around you and make sure your focus is where your focus needs to be. Remember that gratitude feeds contentment and joy. Find anything and everything you can be grateful for. Prioritize your rounds, your 5 pillars, and self-care. I know that's not always easy to do when life is hitting you, but you have to think out of the box. Don't be confined by the constraints of the world around you. Get out of that. What can you do? How can you arrange your life? Do you need to get up 10 minutes earlier so that you can get rounds in? I mean, do you need to wait till a spouse comes home and then lock yourself in a closet? Like, what do you need to do? Think out of the box and don't be afraid or hesitate to do what you need to do. Do it. Appreciate that you may have to work a little bit harder, but I talked this earlier, but when the stress lifts, it's like a whole new you comes out. It's a beautiful thing. Be okay with a plateau type feeling if it's a stressful time. You might feel like, oh, I'm kind of stuck here. Guess what? You're not staying stuck there. I promise. You're not going back. You will move forward. You will get out of it. Hang on. And it's okay to decrease your incremental training during that time period. I started off really strong with incremental training, and then I had to back down when I went through some really stressful times. Too much layers of stress is just too much for limby. Sometimes you need to get some layers off before you can really get in there and work hard on things like incremental training goals. But here is the incredible thing that happens. As you heal from those layers, you may not even incremental train on some of these things over here. They will just go away. You will have trained on them because you will have trained your brain, and you will have broke out of the can cycle and moved into a dose cycle. And it takes a lot more to move you into a can cycle now than it does a dose cycle. And even if you slightly shift it over to a can cycle in the brain, you can recover and move quickly back over. And that's part of recovery. Is that what is your refractory time period? When something stressful happens or you're challenged by something and you feel a limbic response, how long does it take you to shift back over here to the beautiful dose side of the world of your brain? When it doesn't take you very long, that's recovery. That's recovery. And that is a beautiful thing. When it's like, oh, a short round, a proclamation, singing a song, laughing, something just snaps you back over here. That is the beautiful thing of recovery. And when you're going through a very difficult time, increase your self-care. Increase your self-care. Okay, fewer questions. This is, how did she settle her nervous system during such a difficult time? I think through my talk, I've pretty much addressed that. I was very intense. I don't mean intense as a negativity type thing. Intent. Maybe intent is the right word. I was very intent to do what I had to do and kept focused on that, and I did it. And I made sure I always got my rounds in. I made sure I elevated my mood. I made sure I was grateful. No, I never journaled. I'm not a journaler type person. I was asked that question too. I tried, but I don't do well with it. And I was like, it's on my mind. A lot of the things are on my wall. I kept up with a lot of my progress. And then I just kind of thought, well, I don't really need to keep up with every detail every day anymore. I'm just going to live my life. Okay. And, which, by the way, I was going to tell you, especially as parents, because I hope this encourages you. For the first 21 days, I documented the first 21 days that I did not raise my voice towards my kids, not once. And that was huge. I think many of us might not ever want to say it, and I don't think you should. But I would be embarrassed if some people heard my limbic responses to my family. I would be thoroughly embarrassed if 10 people had heard those. So that shift alone was huge. And that was part of why my husband and my kids were like, something's different about mom. I really like it. I want what she has. And it happened. Okay, what were her affirmations that really helped let go of the past and focus on goodness? I had no choice. I think it was that this too will pass. What I happened to in my life, I consider, if I ever write a book, it's probably going to be called a Journey Worth Living. I wrote that in my my DNRS success story that I posted in the blog, Recovery Story. Everything I've gone through was worth it. Would I want to repeat it? Oh, sweet Jesus, no, I would not want to repeat it for anything. But was it worth it? Yes. Would I change anything? No. And I'm not going to live with any regrets over any decisions on that journey that my husband and I made at all. We did the best that we could, and our best was good enough. And it brought me to this beautiful life that I have now. And I wouldn't want to change this for anything. This is what I want. I've got what I want. So I hope that helps. Was she really able to have an incremental training plan with so much life she was coping with? Well, I mentioned that. I started off strong, incrementally training in the very beginning, because I remember Annie saying in the videos that if you go after it early, kind of the sooner you get into it, usually the more success you have, or something like that. So I take it to heart. She said, do it. I was going to do it. So I did. And I started incrementally training with chemicals, with food, with mold. I started doing different things like that. And I had success fast and was like, whoa, until I hit the cold. And then I had to scale back. And then I had to kind of go back in and do it again. And the first thing to leave me was the whole chemical sensitivity. It was just gone quickly. I don't know why, but it was. All food sensitivities were gone very quickly, except for one, which I'll address. And then all of a sudden, minor exposures to mold no longer bothered me anymore again. And so, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And so, but when I got through some really challenging times, and when I was in those roller coasters, I quit incrementally training on those things. I decided that what I was dealing with was emotionally so much challenging to my brain, to me, that I just needed to deal with that, and that I could get to the rest of that when I wanted to. And that's why at the end, when I was past all of that and I knew I was recovered, that's when I made my decisions about what I wanted to handle at that point in time. And let me just go ahead and address that real quick, because for me, I had two things. Small exposures to mold, overdone, no limbic response whatsoever. But I was trying to increase my exposure level to that in particular. And I started bringing more items into my closet, started training more and more on that. And as a result, one of my children started having some significant its happen. And I love my child, and I could not handle watching that anymore. So I made up my mind at that point in time that I had come to a place where I was happy. I'm not going to live in a house that has mold again. I can't. I have 5 kids who are still sensitive to it. So the fact that I got my choice back in my life is what mattered to me. For me, it meant I can go to my friends' houses that I know have been challenging to me, and it's not going to be a problem for me. I'd got to the point where I can go in a bathroom and that's not going to give me any limbic responses. My limbing was so calm about it that I wasn't concerned anymore. So I decided, for me, I'm living the life the way I want to live. I'm very content with the way that it is, and I can continue just the way that I was. And then the other thing was food. My last food item was gluten, and I had to make up my mind on that. I incrementally trained on that 3 rounds. I went through slow. I think you go slow, and just push myself a little bit more, push myself a little bit more. And what happened for me is that when I actually, this is pretty interesting, but got to a point where I wasn't eating gluten, it drastically changed my life. It removed so much neural inflammation off my brain that I really liked that. So for me, I actually didn't care if I brought it back in my life What I cared about was that I wanted to go to a friend's house and not say, could you cook differently for me? I wanted to go out to eat and just eat what I wanted to eat. I wanted my choice. That is all I really cared about. So I incrementally trained on it to the point where I can do that. I can go to somebody's house. I can go out to eat with my husband. I can eat absolutely anything I want. But inside my home, I still choose to eat very clean. That is my choice. But that's what was beautiful about recovery. I got my choice. I got my brain to the place where I could choose what I wanted to do with that. And I still have children who are sensitive. I'm a mom. I have to think about them as well. But I do not live with avoidance. I live with awareness. And that's the whole point of this. So it's a beautiful place to have your choices back in life. And let's see. Can you describe your incremental training in some detail, please? How many incremental trainings a day did you do? Did you do concrete or imaginary, and how did you ramp up to the next level? Any specific advice from implementing incremental training correctly would be helpful. Go slow. Sometimes you need to start with imaginary. I started with holding some things in my hands. I started with imagining, thinking about that. I just would do rounds with myself, imagining that I was around them with no response, or that I was eating that. I imagined forever going out to eat with my stepdad, because that's like an important thing for him. And being able to go out to eat with my family was a big deal to him. And it was really hurting to him when life had to make some different decisions. And so I visualized us going out to this burger restaurant and just pigging out. And it came true. It was a visualization that came true. And it was a beautiful thing. And I think his jaw was on the floor, like watching us eat. It was really awesome. And then let's see, but yeah, go slow. I would do one or two twice. I think I did typically 2 incremental training exposures, usually my first and my second rounds of the day. For me, my rounds tended to be long. So I'll be honest, I didn't do like 4 rounds a day. Okay. I typically did 3 20-minute rounds a day. I do 2 in the morning usually, and then 1 in the afternoon, or whenever I could fit it in between schooling the kids and all that kind of stuff. So the morning ones, I would do the incremental training. And then the afternoon one, I would just, go through my last round. So for me, I just don't think don't pop over. Am I doing 4 rounds? Are they 10 to 15 minutes? Or are they 20 minutes or whatever? I found for me that if you listen to my rounds are usually more like 20, sometimes 30 minutes, because I get my emotions involved. I really get involved in it. And when I do, that's when I feel more dose flowing through my body and my brain. Does that mean you have to do it like me? No, you find out what works for you. And now that I'm in a recovery place, I actually can do my rounds in like 5 minutes now. It's pretty a beautiful thing, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm right where I needed to be. And then it's just like, calm, and I'm fine, and I can move on. I don't need to spend an hour going through all of my rounds at this point, and it would be a beautiful thing if you did. Let's see. Somebody asked me, how did laughter yoga feature in your journey to wellness, and what made you decide to become a laughter yoga leader? What tools or resources did you use? Do you still do laughter yoga now that you've recovered? I talked about that already. I started leading because I really needed to laugh. And then I discovered that it was dosing me by leading tremendously. And so I continued to do it. And then, like I said, as I transitioned past recovery in this transition time period, I wasn't able to do it for a long time, because literally my schedule was constantly changing and I could never figure out when to do it. And then recently, now that life is starting to find a little bit more of a consistency in my schedule, I figured out where I could plug in 2 sessions a week. So I am back to leading with Kim's group twice a week around noon for me, on Tuesdays and Fridays. That way I'm getting some of that in, and I'm seeing all these people that I love. Just seeing faces and names really doses me as well, because I know that we're all on this beautiful journey together. What tools and resources? I never was trained. I'm not certified as a laughter yoga leader. I could possibly someday, but I decided for me, most people's limbic systems don't do well with this. I decided just to go for it. I'd done enough with Kim. Kim's an incredible laughter yoga leader that I had ideas. And so I just started saying, well, I'll just get on, and whatever comes to mind, I'll do. And so for me, it's very unplanned sessions. I just run with whatever comes to mind. And sometimes it's quite hilarious. Like the day we talked about butt cheeks. Remember that? So anyway, some days it's just Awesome. So anyways, let's keep moving on. At what point in her retraining did she consider herself recovered? I think I told you that. And what clues and confirmation already that was, I figured out in early March that I was recovered. It took me about a month that I was processing and realizing that I had recovered. And then lots of clues. But the biggest clue was the level of calm, peace, joy that existed, that nothing was rattling type thing. Did joy and positive states elevate adrenaline in your limbic system? If so, how did you calm limby while also maintaining joy? Yeah, I think that is a very good question, because I think there's good adrenaline and bad adrenaline. We don't want the bad adrenaline, but I've heard people say, don't in your rounds, don't use the word excited, and maybe you shouldn't. For me, I did a lot because that's my personality. I get very happy and excited about life. And for me, it's not particularly a bad thing. So for me, I would be like, I'm really excited about this. I feel this way and whatever, these positive emotions. And as a result, yes, sometimes I'd feel a little adrenaline. But as you continue to work through that and you continue to do the things you need to do to address limby, that good adrenaline will fade away as well. There are some things you just do have to still experience, even though they might give you a little adrenaline. I'm not saying you go jump off a cliff. That's not a good idea. But something that's going to possibly produce a little adrenaline, but bring you a lot of joy, is still a good thing worth training around. Don't do it cold turkey. Visualize yourself doing it. But for me, sometimes it just meant I took a couple more deep breaths. I just slowed down a minute. Continue to visualize those types of things. So I hope that helps. How did I retrain around physical activity and exercise? I think I mentioned that. I just decided that, one of my goals I wrote out at the first week of learning the DVDs and working through the book was that instead of a nap, I would exercise. And that's when I started hitting the stairs. And then I just kept progressing from there pretty quickly for me. And now, by the way, in this transition time period, since I'm not doing like an hour of rounds every day, I decided I still want to do an hour of self-care every day. And so for me, I do jazzercise almost every single day. I found out there's not classes there might be classes in person now, but I'm not able to go to a class, but they have online subscription. And so it's music and it's dancing and it doses me and it's exercise. And I do that almost every day now. And it is a beautiful thing. And if I feel even the slightest like, oh, this is a stressful event in my life going on, I'm like, hey, I can exercise. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, oh, life is good. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see. Do you have any specific self-love, self-compassion practices during your retraining? I took time to myself. I took a hot bath almost every single day. I love hot baths. I went hiking, sometimes even by myself if I needed to be alone and help calm limby. I would walk my dog. I would just choose to do something every day that brought me joy. And that is different for every one of us. So I think that's key. Find out what brings you joy and do it. Do it. Did you have 24/7 ITs? If so, how did you handle these when limby would focus on the 24/7 ITs during times when a full round wasn't possible? Well, I would say mostly that was early on for me. And I didn't last, I don't know that I'd say I had 24/7 ITs for a long time. I did kind of early on, but I just took to heart what Annie said and I said, distract, 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 distract. I'd realize it was going on and I would really work to shift my focus to something else. And exercising was part of that, helping to shift out of it. But other than that, I really wish I had greater tips for you, but I don't think I do. I think you just keep being persistent about what you're doing, trusting that what you do is your best and your best is good enough. And your brain has no choice but to change. It's going to change. And those 24/7 ITs will significantly decrease. And over time, they're going to go away. Okay. What was your favorite pop opposites? Also your favorite mood elevators? My favorite pop opposites were probably this too shall pass. It's okay, Limby. It's okay. It's okay, Limby. Uh-oh, my battery's getting low. Let me plug this in on my computer. And then mood elevators was laughter, especially laughter, music. I created a YouTube channel of funny videos and music and things that I would, like, even I would be sitting donating plasma with my iPad in front of me, and I would just go through video after video to the point sometimes I'd be sitting there crying, and the phlebotomist person would come over like, "Are you okay?" Like, I'm just so happy. It was awesome. So that would be a great thing I'd do. And then I would go through the videos in the forum. You know, there was a section, I guess it's still there. I think the forum shifted a little bit, but of like, I think it used to say Annie's favorite videos or fun videos or something like that. And I would just watch them one after the other and go through that. And then giggle tools. I love giggle tools. I still have giggle tools. And occasionally I just go flipping through, finding something really funny to laugh at on giggle tools. Let's see, somebody asked me a very personal question about a medical procedure that was done. And it said, I'm not going to mention the procedure just so I'm less triggering to anyone else. That said, this person said they'd never had any issues with them or health issues for the 11 years since they had it done. And then they got some ITS about 2 years ago. And the person's asking, can I fully recover with it with DNRS? And then they say, I think this is more of a pop for me than anything else. If you are on here, you can feel free to message me and I would be happy to talk to you about that a little bit more privately. I don't have a perfect answer, but when I read your question, what I'm reading is that for 11 years, you were fine. And then now you have a limbic system impairment and you've got some things going on there. And yes, that makes me think it's a pop and that yes, you can. If you had 11 years of being fine, to me, that's a lot of evidence that you'll be just fine. But like I said, I'll be happy to talk to you. And then once healed of an it, do you stay that way or do you need DNRS for life to keep it away? Someone said, I'm 19 months in and I still have its every day. Is this normal still? They are less, but they're still present. Well, I need to answer this in two ways. DNRS never leaves you. I don't think it ever does. And that is a beautiful thing. I don't think any one of us want it to ever leave us. The value of learning to elevate your moods, to think greater than you feel, to distract yourself, all those things, to recognize those pops when those brain thoughts are not going right is a beautiful, beautiful thing that I don't think ever leaves you. Remember that the brain is, as my coach said to me one time, the brain is neuroplastic in both directions, okay? So do I ever believe I'm going to actually have a limbic system impairment again? No, I don't. But I am acutely aware of how my body responds to stress. But now I have the tools to address the stress and not get stuck. And I never, ever am fearful or concerned that I'm going to get stuck back like I was ever again. And can you, as far as the whole 19 months, still having some is that normal for many people? Yes, it is. Very normal. But what I think I would encourage you, I don't know your circumstances, but can you possibly shift your thoughts away from the fact that it's 19 months and I'm still having these its? What can you celebrate? What has happened over 19 months? When I hear testimonies of people who've done this 19 months, 2 years, 3 years, I think, wow, it's really working. If it wasn't, why would you still be doing it at 19 months? Something in your life has been beautiful and has shifted and has continued to shift and change. Maybe those its are still there. Maybe that's still occasionally an issue, but what is all the other beautiful things that has happened in the process? Focus on that. Focus on all the other good is what I would say. Do your best, because I know everyone seems to reach some point in this program where they go, it's been this long and I'm still dealing with this. And it's a pop. And you have to go, it's been this long. I'm still dealing with this, but look at what I'm not dealing with. Look at the good that has happened. And if it takes me, there was some point in my rounds I started going, okay, Crystal, if it takes you 3 more months, 6 more months, or a year, it is worth it because you're worth it. Scott's worth it. Your kids are worth it. Your parents are worth it. Your friends are worth it. Everyone's worth you being the best you that can be. So I just say, change your focus if you can. Celebrate everything you possibly can and keep going, trusting the process. Your brain has no choice but to change. It has to, guys. I talked about some core beliefs that I had to deal with, like exercise and things like that. I've already addressed that. Let's see. Did you have any its that you didn't have to train with that just went away on their own? Yes. I had some things that I think once I really got through those roller coasters, it just seems like, whew, that went away. All of a sudden, it wasn't even a challenge. I trained on things like the chemicals for so long and then had so much happen. I quit training on the chemicals. I just kept kind of pushing myself and pushing myself. And then all of a sudden, I didn't even need to go back to it. I didn't need to address it anymore. It was just gone. So that does happen. That's a beautiful thing about DNRS. Once you're working on healing from one thing, other things tend to fade away as well. It is just incredible. So don't get caught up in the pop that you've got a list of 10 things you're going to incremental train on. Guess what? You may get through 3 or 4 of them and the number 7, 8, 9 have already been addressed as well. That's a beautiful thing. Just focus on doing your best. Your best is good enough. What you can handle today is great. What progress you make on what you're working on now is a beautiful thing, and trust the process. All right. What were your top 3 keys to success? I think I had to stop and think about this one for a minute. Number 1, I think it was my belief that I trusted the program. I will say, though, I recently watched a video of someone else who recovered, and she said she didn't believe it was going to work for her at all. And guess what? It still did. So do you have to have my level of belief for this to work? I don't think you do. But for me, I think it was a driving force that I believed it and was going to run with it. Number 2, I think it was figuring out what brings me joy in doing it. I discovered over the past year a lot of things about me. I discovered that I love to lead people, whatever I'm doing. I love to lead. I love to lead. I do that in the recorded rounds when I do that with laughter yoga. I love being up on stage and doing bingo. I just love leading people, especially love leading people back into a joyful life. And volleyball brings me a lot of joy. Playing volleyball brings me a ton of joy. Taking back something I thought I'd never do again is incredible. I want to do it like every day. And my kids, focusing on my kids. And then laughter. Laughter was probably the third one. And kind of just a side note on that one too. You do not have to have my faith, my spiritual walk by any means to do this program, but it was a huge key factor because everything I believed and learned in this program matched up with my spiritual beliefs, you could say, and it just created this extra fire to the fuel to keep me going and working the program in a beautiful way. Okay. All right. So next question is, what made you feel completely rewired? What made me feel completely rewired? Calm, joy, and this fearlessness that all of a sudden I had. Do you still have its? Really rarely. I mean, really rare, only if I have very significant stressful events. And I did have something very recently that was really stressful I had to deal with, had an it or two. But here's the thing. I was never like, oh man, I have an it. I'm like, give me a day or two. I'll work through this and I'll get past it. It's okay. And I did. And now it's like, it's behind me again. Did I stop doing rounds or wean down? I talked about, I kind of weaned down and then I just quit. I'd probably more quit than wean down if I'm honest. Do I still do rounds? Only if I need to. What tools do you use daily, if any? I laugh. I still elevate my mood. I work on breathing. And especially for me, I exercise every single day. And then somebody asked me as a mom, any tips for fitting in rounds, mood elevation, and incremental training with kids' needs and activities? My tips is just do it. Find every little minute in your schedule. Occupy your kids in any way that you can. It's okay if you do something a little uncomfortable with how you occupy your kids, like a TV or, I don't know, lock the handle to your door. If I know some of you may have little kids that, you know, you can't do that kind of stuff. I get that. But just think out of the box. Think out of the box. Manage your day the best you can. And your limbic system may be very resistant to that at first, like, because I know sometimes as we're working through this, getting into more of a routine and a schedule in life is a challenge. But if you will keep doing rounds, even where you maybe visualize yourself doing that, eventually it's going to feel more natural and more normal. And you're actually going to thrive on that and wanting to know that, hey, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to crawl out of bed before my family does. And I'm going to get, 2 rounds done at that point in time, or whatever it is. Maybe your kids go to bed early and then you can do more in the evening. I don't, only you know that, but I know that you are so smart. You're working this program. You're totally capable of figuring it out. And yes, it's a challenge. Just recognize it's a challenge. Being a mom, have an active schedule is a challenge, but prioritize it as best as you can and say no to everything else that you can, because it will be worth it. There'll be a time when you can do everything else that you want to do in your schedule and in your life. If there was a day now and then when something just wasn't 100% complete, how did you view that not to create stress? I just would say, I did my best. I did my best. It's okay. It's okay. And I remember a lot of times, even this picture, my I am picture I mentioned earlier, I'd look at it and say, all right, Crystal, today wasn't perfect, but that's okay. That's okay. It didn't have to be perfect. I'm not striving for perfect. I'm just striving to do my best and work this program and be the best mom that I can be. And so for me, I think that's such a big deal. I'm going to harp on that. If you learned anything from me, learn to say to yourself, you did your best and accept where you are. It's good. What do I think were main contributing factors to your recovery? I've kind of already answered that. My determination, my belief, my faith, laughter yoga, things like that were big things. Any tips for the rushing pop or feeling overwhelming pop? Every mom, every parent, and probably many of you who are not parents have felt those pops like crazy. Remember, you're doing your best. Your best is good enough. Take 3 deep breaths. I'm going to tell you what Annie taught us, and it's on my joy member, my mirror. One of those cards is take 3 deep breaths. And remember, there is more than enough time. There's more than enough time. One of my kids still deals with this pop, and I had to sit down with her yesterday and give her a big hug. I'm like, keep in mind, there's enough time for what you're feeling overwhelmed with. Right now, that's not your priority. Try to move your thoughts to your frontal cortex. What is your priority? And if you're feeling rushed, like getting out the door, keep in mind that it's not good and healthy for your kids to feel rushed either. So take a deep breath. Tell your kids for the 15th time, go find your shoes. Let's get your jacket and let's get out as soon as we can. Bring your voice down. Try to be as calm as you possibly can. Combat that pop as best as you possibly can. And maybe you need to stop and be that good self-observer and go, okay, what can I change to make this process a little better? Is there something you can take off your schedule? Is there something that you can do the night before to help you to not be so rushed? I don't know. Maybe you need to engage your children in another way or your spouse to help you so that you don't feel so rushed. Maybe you need to come up with a phrase in your own house, like my marmalade phrase, so that my husband would say, Crystal marmalade. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Deep breath. There's more than enough time. And really, when it comes to the overwhelmed pop, guys, listen, you're not going to accomplish everything now, and that's okay. Your goal while you're doing DNRS is to get you well, is to be able to get your life back. And the beautiful thing is you will get it back and you will be able to parent as you want to parent. Even if you have grown kids, I know you want to be more engaged in a more positive way with your grown kids. Or maybe it's just family members or whoever it is. You're going to be able to do those things. Do not feel rushed. You know, we had such significant financial challenges as I was rewiring, I had to put up on my wall over here. I had to run up there. We are doing our best, which is good enough. The financial piece takes time. And for me, I had to put that there because of my faith. I said, God is the biggest factor. God provides. And I just had to not be overwhelmed by our finances. I had to combat that with a pop opposite. And I felt that way with homeschooling my kids. I was like, oh, I'm not doing X, Y, Z. I feel so overwhelmed. I need to get this in. I need to get that in. Do you know what's happened? I've recovered and I'm having the most incredible homeschooling year with my kids. I'm enjoying them. I'm investing. I actually, my kids are doing a little more than they've done in the past because now I'm capable of handling that with them. It will come. You will be more capable. Whatever it is you're passionate about, maybe right now is not the time that you're going to do that, but your time will come. Visualize it, put it up, put pictures of you doing it up on the board, up in your closet or your wall or whatever in front of you somewhere. The time will come. Do not be overwhelmed by this sense of I gotta do. No, you don't. You got to take care of you, do your rounds, stick to the 5 pillars and good self-care. The next question is, did I have any life situations during your journey that caused an ebb? And if so, how did you navigate that? I think I've already discussed all of that. I don't need to really go back to that. What does it feel like to be 100%? Incredible. It's not perfect. I'm not looking for perfect, but I do feel normal. I do feel like nothing is stopping me. I can do anything I want to do. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to do that. What were some of my favorite ways to soothe Lindy? I think I talked about that. Laughter, joy, spending time, for me, like studying Bible verses that bring a lot of joy and a lot of peace to my heart and my mind, things like that. Spending time doing things with my kids that were joyful to them or to me. I figured I can't make my kids do DNRS. They all did a full 6 months of this program and got a whole lot better. We all still are challenged by certain things that come up, and they are in particular, but I gave them tools. And I can't make them, but I can encourage them and I can support them now at this point in time. And we can make good, rational decisions that I wasn't able to necessarily make before. So I think that's all the questions I have here. So I'm going to go up through the chat and look. I know this is going so long. You guys are incredible hanging in there with me. Oh, thank you guys for all these beautiful comments. Let me see. I hope the audio ended up being okay for everyone. New Zealand, that's so awesome, Sophia. Did you do more than 1 hour of rounds? Not really, I'll be honest. I can't think of a single time that I actually did. I mean, I probably did an hour and 10 minutes occasionally, an hour, 5 minutes. Sometimes I probably did 50 minutes, 55. But I definitely had a perfectionist pop, and I learned very quickly. I had to let that go. My rounds were not about me being perfect, having the perfect hour in or more or whatever. It was about me doing the work that needed to be done. And some days that meant doing a little more. And sometimes that was actually, you know, if I finished and it was 53 minutes of rounds for that day and I recorded them, so I typically knew about how long they were, that was okay. That was okay. Because usually I did 53 minutes of rounds. I may have done many rounds during the day. I probably did, 30, 40 minutes of laughter yoga that day. I did a lot of things, so it was good. Let's see. You guys, oh, your kind comments. You guys are amazing. We are all so good. Let's see. Can you say more about how the adrenaline that sometimes came from elevating your mood helped you and you felt it was positive? What else can I say about that? It's just that it's something I think you do work through a little bit. When I think about experiencing some adrenaline when you're going through, say, a joyful, or for me, something that's kind of exciting, you know your body. You know it. I don't know your body. You're going to know your body, and you're going to know how you need to address that and respond to it. But whole purpose of incrementally training is that controlled little bit of exposure, right? That creates a little bit of that CAN response. Cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, just in case we need to remind you. And but the whole idea is because then you go into your rounds, you go into using those tools that then shifts that CAN over to the dose, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And it begins to teach your body that your brain and your body, you don't need to respond to that. Well, the same thing when you experience a little bit of that adrenaline, then you realize what it is and you address it. Okay. So you go through your rounds, you keep doing your past memory or your future visualization, or you do some deep breathing to calm your limbic system, or you hum. Humming helps, singing helps. All of those things help to put you back in that parasympathetic state that you want to be in. So I don't really know what else to say about that other than don't fear it if it happens. Because that's a whole point of DNRS, is that we move out of fear cycles, but just go, oh, okay, that's a little too much adrenaline, and breathe or laugh or sing or finish a round or whatever you need to do. But eventually your body will quit producing that and you'll just get so much dose chemicals instead. What was your proclamation statement? That I am capable, I am calm, I am confident, and I am courageous in any situation. And then it grew. We went to I love this amazing life that God has given me. And I am dancing through life with grace and joy and ease. And nothing can take away this joy. No circumstance, no person, nothing can take away my joy. That was pretty much what it evolved into. And at one point, I was struggling with some relationships and things in my life that were pretty limbic. So I started saying, and I love, and I'd list them off. I love my husband. I love my kids. I love my dog. I love da 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 da. And I would just list it off. And a beautiful thing happened. And about a month after I started doing that, I really did fall in love with all those things and all those people. It just changed it. Do you do coaching? Yes, actually, I am doing some private coaching. Like I mentioned, I'm not to the point where I can apply for DNRS coaching yet. And so I've kind of been in the state of like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to work as a PT? Am I not going to work? Am I just going to enjoy my life? Like, what do I want to do? And at the same time, I respect the fact that my family could use a little more income from me coming in, but I do not feel pressured. I'm not making decisions out of survival, put it that way. That's not a good thing for my limbic system either. But I've had a couple of people reach out to me and ask me about coaching, and I thought, why not? I can do it. I can go ahead and do it. I've lived through the program. I am not as skilled as those incredible DNRS coaches who are just amazing, but I am capable and I would love to help people. So if you're interested in that, you can reach me through WhatsApp if you're interested in that. I do offer some private coaching now. So let's see. Yes, I'm coaching. Y'all answer that. Is there a place where you can access my rounds? In the recorded rounds group number 2 on Friday, I just posted my Google Drive and left the group. It's kind of long overdue, but it was time. I needed it to do that. But I can also, if you're not in that group and don't have access to them, you can message me. I will send you a link to my Google Drive. It doesn't have all of them on there, but it has a lot of them. And my recovery round is on there, which is probably my favorite round because I'm bawling and crying like crazy. And so I can send that to you. I just want to say, please feel free to reach out to me. Please know that my schedule is really full. And Monday through Thursday, I don't do a good job of responding to people. I do my best on Fridays when I have a little bit more time. So if you don't hear back from me for a couple of days, I'm not ignoring you. I promise you I'll get to you. Just be patient with me. Can you tell me a little bit more about, 1, what you have posted and written around your closet, and 2, if you did any other writing shifts gratitude? Okay, so I told you about my I am wall. You saw my joy mirror, which has a lot of pop opposites, like the rushing one, and a bunch of those other ones on there that I knew I was dealing with. And then I have my kind of wall where I was keeping up with successes, and I was putting those on little sticky notes and taking sticky tack is what I was doing and putting them on the walls. And so then I have another section here, which is pictures. Like I haven't shown you this one. I can show you this. I love my closet, and one day I'm gonna move and I've got to decide what to do with it. But let's see, here is a another wall of pictures. There's pictures of me playing volleyball, my skill. There's pictures of some other successes, like when I drove to Texas and I ate a big old plate of a waffle plate that's in the size of Texas. That picture to the right in the middle is the first night I played volleyball. There's other pictures with me and my mom and other really special moments. And then up here is the section where I mentally had to emotionally and mentally work through a lot of challenges that I needed to kind of shift my thoughts on, like our finances. There's a lot of scriptures and things but I kept proving to myself that we're going to be okay, that we're going to be provided for, our needs are going to be met. And then like there's one that says C plus R equals O, circumstances plus reaction equals the outcome. For me, it's realizing that I honestly had no control over my circumstances. That was not something I had control over, but I did have control over my reaction to them. And the circumstances plus how I respond to them will help determine what my outcome looks like. And so realizing what was in my realm of influence and control, what is in my kingdom, you could say, as my coach would say, and what is not in my kingdom, and letting go of what is not in my kingdom. I have no control over that. So why let Limby linger on that? It's not worth it at all. And then I wrote things up here like no complaining. I said, underneath that I wrote, there is always a solution, always a solution. And there's some Bible verses up here. And I wrote up here that I can change my attitude to snap. And God can change my circumstances in a snap. For me, I had to realize that like, this is not going to last. I just need to change my attitude about what is going on right now. So, and then some things like that. And then there's one other section up here that I haven't shown you, but I've got another poster board with some sticky notes. And this was also some things I was writing through. At one point, I even questioned myself, like, can I actually, what did I write up here? Where let me find it. Can I bring more joy into my life and homeschool at the same time? Homeschool is a huge commitment. Some of you are doing it and you didn't choose to do it. And I could probably do a whole nother session on trying to help you through that circumstance if you wanted to. But know that I had to decide. And the answer for me is yes. If I was homeschooling out of fear, because I didn't want my kids in certain circumstances, or I was afraid they may be exposed to something or whatever else there may be. For me, that would not necessarily be a healthy thing. That'd be feeding my limbic system. And I had to come to realization of that. That was for me, okay? But if I was homeschooling my kids because it brought me joy and it brings them joy, then it was okay. And that's the decision I had. One of the things I had to work through and think about. And the fact that one of my kids actually finds more joy in public school. Good. I'm glad he does. And he does really well at it. So those are those kinds of things. Well, I had some things up here, and like I have up here this little thing of a note about, okay, there's me. There's a side of me that has this neuroplasty teaching as a physical therapist. There's a side of me now that has neuroplasty training in the world of DNRS. And I'm like, where do I bridge this? So there's things like that in my mind that I'm still like putting together. I don't have all the answers at this point in time, but I'm just happy to do what I can do. So that kind of, hopefully that gives you a better idea. And then I have another section is just beautiful memories. I have every one of my kids' birthdays, we embarrass our children because we love doing it, my husband and I. We take pictures. Well, he's on one cheek, I'm on the other cheek of my child, and we give them a big old smoochy kiss, and it embarrasses them like crazy in front of their kids. So I posted a bunch of those pictures. I just love it. And so I have things like that on another wall, just pictures. And then behind me, I should tell you, these pictures back here, because like many of you, DNRS is, pre-DNRS, actually, is we've all been challenged in our relationships, and I didn't want to ever think or feel like I was isolated. And so I decided, well, I'll just change my perspective. So I started posting pictures of me and a bunch of friends that I've had over the years that I cherish. And so there's just pictures of me and my best friend and her kids and I doing fun things. And then there's pictures of other people that are so special to me. And I just started where every day when I walk in and out of this closet, I see these people and I'm reminded that they love me, even if I haven't talked to them for 6 years. They love me. I love them, and life is good. So I think that's about all I have to say there. Do you have any additional recommendations for shifting out of can moments? You said deep breathing is one example, and obviously rounds as well. But for us mamas with little kids, we can't leave alone. I know we can't leave to go do rounds. Do you have any other calming shifts? I think you'll probably have to find a way to do your rounds with them in the room. And I don't know how the answers to all of that. I tried that. I was in a car driving one day, the whole family was there, and something triggered me and I just went into a round. But in my future visualization, I visualized my kids with me, and one of them was getting married, and I said who she was marrying, and I talked about a baby they were having, and my whole house erupted into laughter like crazy. And the crazy thing about that is she's now dating the guy I said in that. That was really funny. So I would just say you get to be creative. Find a way to take your breaks as best as you can. I did not have, if I had a nursing baby, like a little one, I think I'd probably be able to get through it with that. Maybe if you're sitting down and spending time hugging that kid, maybe you can be focusing on trying to do a round that they find engaging, like a moment where they were born, go back to memory when they're born or something like that. And a future visualization is something you're going to do fun with them. Maybe you can find a way to engage them in that. I know that that's not going to work all the time. I realize that you're not going to do that every day, all day long. But I just encourage you, think out of the box, find a way and engage help in any way that you possibly can. If you can find a way to take a break and have even one day a week where there's an hour or two and you can escape, do it. Do it. It's worth it. You're worth it. I wish I could tell you a whole bunch more. And if I think of more, maybe I'll do a video about it someday or something. I totally respect, and I hope you do too, that is a challenge. When you've got little kids and you need to watch over them for safety reasons, it is a challenge, but I don't think it's not doable. I think you'll find your way and you'll find your groove one way or the other. Let's see. Was there anything else? It's hard though. When you got little ones, that's very challenging, but don't give up. Don't despair. You can do it. You'll find it. You'll figure out your groove. Okay, this is to help answer Ellen's question. If Crystal doesn't have time to reply, this is from the Heart Math Model. Okay. All right. I guess I'll just read through this real quick. Imagine a square divided into 4. The left half of the square is deselecting activities, and the right half of the square is sympathetic, and the lower half of the square is parasympathetic. So some activities are nourishing but slightly sympathetic, like joyful exercise or laughter yoga. Meditation, DNRS rounds, energy flows, and breathing brings you physiology out of the slight adrenaline and sympathetic state into the parasympathetic state. That's why laughter yoga ends with breathing, yawning, energy flows, or dancing, which grounds you back into this moment and calms your body. I'm sure that Crystal has some great thoughts on this, but I just wanted to address it quickly in case she doesn't have time. Thank you. Some other activities may also be nourishing and sympathetic, and you can absolutely do them, but to ground yourself back into parasympathetic physiology, not deselecting. Sorry, autocorrect. Okay, that was good. Thanks, Laurel. I appreciate that. Can you give a link to the Jazzercise? Well, I wish I could. You can go to jazzercise.com, and it's actually a paid prescription. So I think I pay like $20 a month to be able to do it. I've really thought about, it'd be so fun if I could, I don't know if I can do it through a Zoom and we could all dance together or whatever, but it'd be fun. If I ever figure that out, maybe I'll let at least those in my laughter yoga group know. Let's see. I joined later. Not sure if you covered before, but how did you train around exercise? Okay. We've talked about that several times. so I really hate to get into that. If you rewatch this, I'll talk about it towards even the beginning, but let's just say I started off from the beginning. Instead of taking a nap, walking up and down my stairs, I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to take a nap. I'm going to exercise. And I just started doing gentle, like 1 to 2 minutes, what I could do. And then I just began pushing myself a little bit more, swimming laps, doing all kinds of other stuff. And it ended up paying off for me quickly. So proud of you, Crystal. I want some of that. Thank you. Did you ever do 2 half-hour rounds and not 3? What website do you use for printing pictures? Yeah, I probably did do a couple of half-hour rounds. I did. I even had 1 or 2 rounds where I did almost like an hour round. I just got into it. And if I got into it, I wasn't stopping it. It was flowing through my brain and I was soaking it in. And I know there's a lot of thoughts on that, but I just don't think you pop over it. Do your rounds what seems to fit and work best for you. And if you really feeling the result of it, keep going with it. That's my personal thoughts. And then what website do you use for printing pictures? I actually personally right now I use freeprints.com because supposedly you kind of get so many free a month and you pay for shipping. And so right now, like at the end of every month, I go back to the last month. What fun, joyful things did we do? And then I do those pictures and then I make extra ones for my kids. And, it's one of those things that pictures in life was not something very challenging for a long time. And now that I've gained a little more, now that I've recovered, I can go back and think about, oh, I might want to get some pictures printed. Oh, I might actually want to make a photo album together. Like some things I put off for a long time, I'm now getting to do. That's a beautiful thing of recovery. Let's see. Good question, Bridget. Is it fair to say once we work on our emotions, all the other its will eventually fade? I don't know. I don't want it to sound like once you get through every emotion, every fit fades, but there's something incredible that happens as you work through those emotions. Those emotions, keep in mind what Manny says, that emotions can bring new connections or strengthen connections. Also, so those negative emotions that kept those more negative connections going, that kept feeding your brain in so much can, and the harmful chemicals. When those harmful chemicals are dialed down, because all of a sudden you've dealt with the emotions that were driving them, it's like a lot of your symptoms do fade away. Am I saying every one of them does? I don't think that's really fair for me to say every one of them does, but a beautiful thing happens when it does, because really your emotions are driving your health and your thought processes in a tremendous way. And so maybe it is fair to say, but I don't know that I would say that's a guarantee, but it happens. It happens a lot. You get through the emotions, you get to a beautiful side, you remove all those harmful things like fear and frustration and anger and whatever else that may have been plaguing you. All of a sudden it's like, oh, and then you may just wake up one day and you're like, oh, when was the last time I had that it? I don't remember. It just kind of faded away into the side of it. Let's see, what else is there? I think, is there any more questions? Is there anything else that I didn't address? Golly, guys, you guys are amazing. We've been over here over 2 hours. I'm so sorry it took so long, but I'm really hopeful that I said something very helpful. Here we go. Okay, so would you feel those emotions and do rounds? Like do mini rounds. Would you feel those emotions and do rounds? I would work really hard to pour every positive emotion that I could into my rounds. And I would work really hard throughout the day. Oh, somebody's off of mute. I'd work really hard during the day to hold on to and grasp a positive emotion. One of my favorite memories is it was a summer day and I have a computer in my kitchen, and I would put on my YouTube channel with the fun songs and things that I like to do. And I'm dancing and I'm kind of just getting into a joyful mood intentionally. And then my kids are, and I've got several of my kids in the kitchen and we're all dancing and we're having a good time. And I'm like, this is heavenly. But it was because I chose to elevate my mood, which affected elevating other people's moods as well. So yeah, I worked really hard. Not every round was full of emotions. This is a misconcept. I also want you to know that there's many rounds I never posted in the recorded rounds group because they were flat. Like, I don't think anybody would get anything out of them. But here's the truth, flat rounds still work. You may feel like, huh, what was that? I just went through the motions, but guess what? Going through the emotions still changes the brain. The more you can bring in those positive emotions, I think the more it helps you, but it doesn't mean you didn't do what you were trying to accomplish by doing it. Mini rounds. I would do mini rounds occasionally. If I noticed like something was going to kind of pop up or a pop or whatever, I would just go into a very brief, and sometimes a mini round for me would even be something like going through the first couple of steps. Sometimes I just go through the first, first 6 steps and not getting into all of the past memory and future. Or sometimes I'd quickly kind of go through the steps and then I would visualize in a way that past memory. I would maybe not speak all of the words, but I could visualize myself, standing on the front stage, holding a microphone, singing as I'm looking into the eyes of my husband with the day we got married and we sang to each other. That doses me, that was special, just picturing that. And then I may move that emotion, through my head, down all the way through my body, give it a color, talk about it, covering my brain, my face, my shoulders. Next, you guys know that. Then I might move into a future visualization, like it's our 25th wedding anniversary and we're redoing our vows, and I'm picturing us on the stage, maybe singing again, and it's dosing me again. So I may not go through vocalizing all of it, but I'll at least kind of like visualize it in my mind, feel the emotions of it, and bring it through me. So I hope that helps. But mini rounds are just usually not going through everything, but getting yourself to that point where you're feeling that dose of it, and sometimes just quicker than others. Feel the hard emotions briefly and then do a round with great emotions. Yes, Lori. Another one of my favorite rounds, and it might be on my thing, is one day I just was struck all of a sudden with grief over the life that I've missed in some ways. You could put it that way. Like, I have friends who have similar journeys to me. Our end journeys look different. And I am so grateful that their end journey looks different than mine. I don't regret mine in any way, but sometimes I'm like, there was a hit one day, like, oh, I kind of wish that was going to be my end journey. And I kind of grieved over it. And then I went through a walk and I gave one of the most strongest, hardest emotional speeches that I could give to my limbic brain. And I came back home and I was like, oh, it's okay. And then it was like all that grief was gone. I let myself grieve just for a little bit, and then I poured in strong, good emotions about it and moved my brain back to, I am so grateful for my friends. I am so grateful for me and the outcome of my family and our lives, and this is a beautiful thing. So you said your family would do marmalade and you'd go do a round. Would that be one of your hour rounds or just a little mini round? Usually I counted it as a round. But not always. Sometimes it was like a mini round. Sometimes it was part of it. And it just depended on the day and the circumstances. Like the day I was in the car and all of a sudden I triggered and then I went into a round that ended up being this hilarious event in the vehicle. I didn't count that. That I still did. I'd done like at least 2 rounds that morning. We were going somewhere. And then I got home in that evening, I did another round and rounded out the day. So I think it just depended. I don't think there's anything wrong with you count that towards a round as long as you feel like you're actually getting in what you need to get in and you get done all that needs to get done. So you didn't incrementally train with negative emotions or feelings. That is a good question. I'll be completely honest. Like, I had some really negative emotions and feelings towards a family member. As many of us, that's very, very common, very, 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 very common. And I really, for the longest time, I could not do a single good memory round. I tried one day, like with this person as well. And it was kind of a painful experience. And I ended up in a good visualization that kind of helped to get out of those negative emotions. But I stopped and I kind of did a self-observation and said, I'm not ready for that. I'm just not ready for that, at least. Not going to do that now. And then about 9 months into it, when I'm starting to feel a lot better, I start just visualizing things with them. I've heard a lot of people that they'll go back and rewrite their memories with them in their brain and do past memories where they do them totally different. I think that is beautiful. I think that's a wonderful idea. But I just decided to visualize more things doing that I enjoyed with this person. And I love this person so much now. So much healing just took place. So I think that I dealt with a lot of negative emotions, especially just the strain of my circumstances, that I couldn't train with them because they were there almost all the time. I just had to keep focusing on positive emotions, if that helps. I had no choice. Let's see, was there anything else? Great questions. Yes. All right, there we go. Last question then. When were you first realized you were fully recovered? Did you ever feel that you had to make up for lost time from when you were limbic and focusing on rewiring and not other things? I'm not going to say that I felt like I had to make up for lost time, but I enjoyed feeling like, oh, I can do this now. Oh, I can do that now. Oh, I can sit and watch a movie with my family at night instead of being in my closet doing my rounds or doing laughter yoga. Oh, I can do this. I can have a conversation at night with my children. I just began to go, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. And just soaking that in. So I don't think you need to focus on lost time. That's not helpful. I think you focus on the beautiful time and the beautiful gifts you have now and keep going. And so that's good. So anything. Okay, I think we're trying to close it out at this point.
Hi, Crystal. It's Addie. I just came back on.
Great.
I just wanted to come back on and just say thank you so much for this amazing talk. Wow, I had some really beautiful, happy tears during that. That was so inspirational to me, and I'm sure to so many of us. Yeah, just this like radiant, glowing, joyful being. So thank you so much for taking the
Thank you.
time, and thank you everybody for your questions, and to everybody who came. This was just such a wonderful experience. And yeah, I think Crystal, you had said before that you're open to, if people come up with other questions, they might be able to message you, or
Absolutely.
what's the best way for them to do that is WhatsApp, or did you have a
Yeah, just message me on WhatsApp and know that I promise I will get to you. I promise. Just be patient with me.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, yes, thank you so much again, Crystal. This was absolutely amazing. And I'm just going to end the recording now, I think. And just, yeah, on behalf of Anya and I who organized and everyone who helped us, we're so, so grateful. So, yay.
Thank you guys for organizing this. What a beautiful gift that you're giving to other people. You guys have got to remember that you're in the game and the game is worth it and you're going to win the game.
Yeah, we are. Thanks, Crystal. I'm just going to stop the recording now.